People have to stop creating the wheel. Any other questions before we move on to club coach? I'm very conscious of my time here. So.
Yes, so there's a question in the chat, John. Can you just go to the executive meeting as a support without having a role in the club itself? That's from Janice.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The problem with that is that if you're not on the executive, you don't have a vote at the meetings. You can have influence, but you don't have a vote. When you go to, by the way, there's no requirement for the mentor to become a member of the club. I believe that you should. I believe that you should for that exact reason. You have a vote. Because you know, there are people that will try to hijack clubs. They will make it their own little personal project. You know, I was involved with an individual like that, and we had to ask her to leave. That's the other reason for voting people in, because you can vote them out. Any other questions? All righty. Club coach. Club coach may be the most difficult job, and it's the one that I'm going to spend the least amount of time on, but there are more resources available for you. The reason that club coach is the most difficult job is because you're coming into a club where there's already burnout. People have already lost their enthusiasm, and you may have a club killer in there. The club that I currently belong to is Peterborough Toastmasters, and I, as president, I have just requested 2 club coaches. And the reason that I requested 2 club coaches is because we're struggling. We have a club killer. I won't say the individual's name because that would not be right, but she's a club killer. She doesn't think that guests should be allowed to make comments at the end of the evening because we're putting them on the spot. So she did away with that. She doesn't believe that, that we need to have somebody following up with guests during the week. Phone calls, an email is sufficient, because we shouldn't be bugging them. You know, we might turn them off. There is a little side story. Many years ago, there was a woman, her name's Isabel Hershaw. She's still alive. Her husband has passed away. She has a club named after her, Hershaw Toastmasters. And this very first conference I was at, the person who was taking over as district governor was doing her opening speech, you know, and as the new district governor. And she said, you know, when I came to a Toastmasters meeting, and I, you know, I kind of enjoyed it, but I was a school teacher, and I really believed that, you know, it really wasn't for me. And I had decided that I was not going back. You know, they asked me for, you know, comments at the end of the evening, and I said, you know, I enjoyed the evening and that, but I went home and I convinced myself that I didn't need Toastmasters. And then in the middle of this week, this little Scottish sounding woman called me up, and that would be Isabel, and said, Lassie, did you enjoy the meeting? She said, yes, I did. She says, that's great. We'll see you next week. Bring your checkbook. And she did. And here she was taking over as district governor. Who knew?
Amazing.
Person that wasn't going to join. So you've got to get past that life-sucking person. And club coaches can do that. First of all, you cannot be a member of the club to be a club coach. But once you have been officially appointed to the club, you can join the club. There's a key factor in that. Make sure you are officially appointed, that you ever receive notification from Toastmasters International saying you are a club coach or you will not get credit. Then you may join. As a club coach, I joined all 3 clubs that I was a coach, assigned as a coach to. You notice I said 3, but I only have credit for 2. The criteria was different back when I was the club coach the first time. And the corporation decided that they weren't going to pay anymore, and the individuals decided they weren't going to pay, so the club died. Even though they were distinguished back then, they required an additional, you had to have X number of members, not just growth in membership. which they do now. You had to have 20 members in order to be. It was never about the Distinguished Club program in the beginning. So that was my first foray in it, in crash and burn.
So Mandeep has a question, John. Can a person transfer into the club once they've been appointed as a club coach?
Yes, they can transfer in. They could be can't be reinstated because you got to be a Toastmaster, be a coach. But yes, you can transfer in. You can be a member of 2 clubs, or just, as you said, transfer in. Absolutely. But make sure you're appointed first. All right. So qualifications. That's all in the material. I'm not going to go over that. I have about 8 minutes left here. So why are they needed? I've already discussed that. How to be an effective club coach. Without going into too much elaboration here, you've got to be a good listener. You have to be very observant. You have to identify what the issues are. And what I would strongly suggest that you do is start off with a Toastmaster program called Moments of Truth. How many of you do Moments of Truth in your club every single year? Raise your hands. Okay, I saw one hand go up. Any others? Nobody else is putting their hand up. Oh, okay, so I got 3 up. All right. Because the reality is, was that a 4th? Or it's just jumping, my screen's just jumping. Okay. Moments of Truth. Moments of Truth gives people the opportunity to identify what they know are the issues. And then the issues can be addressed. You cannot go into any environment thinking you know until you know. In the military would say time spent on recce is seldom wasted. Recce is reconnaissance. Time spent on reconnaissance is seldom wasted. Go in, watch, learn, listen. All right, so of course we have to build rapport. You'll get these slides, you can go through them. The 4th one down there, enables the club to achieve goals. So once we have identified goals, and we're going to use the Distinguished Club program and the Club Success Plan to do this, enables the club to achieve goals. Now, I'm going to focus on the word enables for just a second here, because enabling means you can't ram this down people's throat. Another cliche, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink, of course. So you have to create the environment where people in the club will take the responsibility. Focus on how to, hey, you're doing a great job. Nobody has ever said, wow, that guy said I did a great job. That really sucked. That was a mean thing to say. Nobody's ever said that. So be enthusiastic. Tell people, hey, you're doing a great job. Even if you come across like, some of Jim Carrey's characters, over the top, just be that person.
So John, we have a question on how would you deal with a club killer if you were the club coach? How would you have that person's attitude or behaviors switch up? Is that possible?
Sure. The first thing I do is I have a one-on-one with them, and I speak to them with enthusiasm. And I tell them, I make them feel like they're really important, because they believe that they are the reason the club still exists, not the reason the club is dying. Okay, so you need to get back to grassroots, and I would call them aside, and Cher's right below me in this, so I'm going to be looking as if I'm looking at Cher. So, and I'd say, Cher, I'm here to help this club, and I've noticed that you are one of the people that can be relied on here, and I really need your help. Can you do that for me? Nod.
Absolutely.
So they will nod. Absolutely, because you've just told them how important they are, and it is really important for us to get together and to find ways to build people up and get people involved here. And always ask. I know it sounds repetitive, but ask and get confirmation, because that plants the seed in their brain. Now, Cher does neuro-linguistic programming, so you need to keep planting seeds in their head, and those seeds will eventually sprout, because through Toastmasters, we're going to help people to grow and to glow. And to do that, we focus on because you don't know what their story is. You don't know why they are the way they are or what's going on. Like when I sat down with the individual in the club and I said, we're getting a coach. And I said, but I need you on board. I need your help here. And she's like, oh yeah, well, and I'm retired. But John, I've been so burnt out. Absolutely, I understand that. Let's focus on one thing that you can do to help us here. How about this? And she agreed. All right. Yes, develop diplomacy skills, and that's kind of what we were just talking about there. These are things that you're going to be doing, and you may not have that before you come in there. By the way, salespeople are probably better at this one. The increased proficiency as a facilitator and a negotiator, because they're always negotiating. Salespeople are always negotiating. All right.
People are loving your experience, John. We have 2 more questions in the chat. First one is, how do you approach a president who's a dictator?
I'll be honest with you. Every time I've had that situation, the person hasn't lasted, because when they are confronted with that process, and especially once you've done moments of truth will identify that from multiple members, multiple sources. Because what I consider a dictator, like, I don't know your politics, any of your politics, but I could say, Trudeau's a dictator. Anybody that stood up to him within his own party, he's gotten rid of. He's a dictator. But you may be a liberal and love Trudeau, and you may not see that. You may, say he is not, absolutely not. So you don't know. So go by the moments of truth, because they will identify that individual. Make sure it's them telling you, not you telling them. But if you do identify that, they usually don't last, because once you get the enthusiasm going and you get other people involved and you can stop them from telling, telling is not selling. Telling is not selling. If I want you to buy something from me, if I want you to buy into Toastmasters, I cannot go, and you will do this, and you will do this, and you will do this. That's never going to work. That's never going to work doing this. I have to listen to people, what their issues are, find out why they're being like that. Maybe they've had experience in the past where people haven't done it, or maybe they run a daycare. Who knows?
There's
another question there.
There's a fun further question. What training do you suggest for coaches? And I'm thinking, well, Toastmasters has some great training for coaches. Do you have any quick get started training that you suggest beyond today?
I'm not at my house. I'm actually at Michelle's house today. So I do have some books and things like that I've used in the past. But yes, Toastmasters, I would say there. In fact, when you go to resources, I don't know if I downloaded it. I think I sent it to Michelle though, so she can provide that. But there's a resource specifically for club coaches, and it's got kind of more of the club coach training. But find a mentor. We just talked about mentors. Find somebody who has been a club coach, who has been a successful club coach. Talk to them. Find out what they've done in the past. But I do have, I taught communication and leadership for over 12 years. So I do have books on coaching or leadership books that have sections within them that are about being a club coach, or not a club coach, being a coach. Another question there, or I'm almost out of time, and I got a couple more slides that I really want to cover, and then we'll open it up for questions at the end there. I'm sorry, Leslie, if I'm taking a few minutes. That is very un-Toastmasterly, but DTM stands for don't time me.
That's all good. We are enjoying.
Okay, so we already talked about this. Observe the club dynamics. Do your members your moments of truth. Work with individuals. Introduce yourself. Call them during the week. Email them. I'm a big believer in face-to-face. Go out for a coffee with them. I know we're in pandemic and stuff like that, but yet minimum, pick up the phone, call somebody up, because what they discuss with you is different than what they will put in a text or an email. Absolutely. Plus you can listen for intonation, pace, pause, pitch, volume, things that will identify, woman without her man would be nothing. Woman without her man would be nothing. those are the exact same words, exact same order. But if I sent them out in an email or a text and they did not have proper punctuation so that you could hear the way it was being said, you would misinterpret it. Pick up the phone. And there's one of your resources, by the way. Use the Club Coach Troubleshooting Guide, because that's right. It's downloadable right off the TI website. Okay, number 2 on this one, emphasize teamwork. You got to get people. You can't do this yourself. You need people on board. And you know, when I was LGM, when I was the Lieutenant Governor of Marketing, the district governor, her theme for that year, when we were still allowed to use themes, her theme for that year was encourage by asking. Encourage others by asking. You know, if you say, you know, you've been at meetings and you say, who would like to do a speech next week? And you get nothing. So here's the thought. You know, Leslie, I know you've been working on this. How about doing a speech next week? I believe that you would be really good at that. What are my chances of you doing it now that I've specifically asked you versus saying, who would like to do this? Like, focus on them. Again, focus on their needs. Focus on them. Focus on what's in it for them. You want people to help you, ask for their help. You know, lean on me when you're not strong. Terrible for a Saturday morning. Let them know that you're there to help them, and encourage clubs to use other clubs as models. In fact, involve another club as part of the club coach team. You know, like in Peterborough, we don't have a lot of local clubs. So we have people that come all the way from Lindsay, which is about a 40-minute drive, to come to the club to help us out. And they take turns at that. We only have, we're getting 2 club coaches, but we get people, Tony Nelson has been a huge impact on this club. And yeah, he's been around for a long time, a lot longer than me. So have we mentioned moments of truth? All right. You may have to redo this and teach them how to plan and produce club meetings, because you may notice that they're doing things that are off the charts. The moment we started instituting, having members guests make comments at the end of the evening, we started seeing more interest from the individuals, because they may have sat there and chosen not to participate in table topics. I always ask them if they'll participate. Or if I'm doing it, instead of singling people out, I pass an envelope around with the table topics in it. And when it's their turn, they can choose to do a table topic or talk about themselves for a minute. Oh, by the way, in corporate clubs, limit table topics to 1 minute. And if they go past 1:30, clap them down. You don't have time. You've got 50 minutes to hold a club meeting. All right. Have we mentioned moments of truth? Quality clubs, memberships, member service perspective. So you need to be asking them what they need from the meetings, what they're getting from the meetings, and that will allow you to plan your meetings accordingly. 20 members, yep. Contests. By the way, a cool one for membership contests. Yes, they do have these ones that are there, but have the club set up little, like 2 groups, and have a steak and burger night. Okay, so the winning team gets steak, the losing team gets burgers, or whatever. Hot dogs for the losers, and Swiss chalet for the winners, whatever. Just do something that gives them an award, because when you create that friendly competition, and I'm not talking the cutthroat kind, when you have that friendly competition, people will get on board. And of course, you've got those awards. All right. So we have talked about membership over and over today. Yes, this is critical. You need to continually recognize achievement. progress charts are really cool to do. And I do that basically on a weekly meeting. Even if I have somebody that has not met it, but they've moved closer. Like, for example, I don't have to put up a star saying that, we got another educational award or another leadership award. I can say, oh, last week, Iona did a speech that moved her closer to achieving her goal of this, which helps the club get this goal. So, and by the way, by identifying Iona in that, I have now also put praise on her. I have now identified that she has achieved something. And how do you feel when you hear that, Iona? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. People love that recognition, and that's what Toastmasters is about. All right, so we're going to make sure that we recognize people. By the way, if it's a corporate club, this is a cool one, because when I rescued should I name the bank? It was RBC. When I went down and rescued that club and was a successful coach there, I got the person who was they weren't director of HR, but it was HR. It had a different name, but anyway, they were in HR, and they would send out an email blast saying that so-and-so had just achieved this level, in like competent communicator. They just achieved their competent communicator award. And so people are going, first of all, they're going, wow, they just achieved this. And then second thing they're going is, what is a competent communicator award? Where do I get one? And then boom, you got more people coming out to the meetings. So publicize the club's achievement in the district club program. I'm jumping ahead here. We looking at the club mission, you can read that. Teach club how to use the distinguished club program and club success plan. If you haven't done that right from day one, then you've missed your opportunity. And this all goes into the club success plan, so we're skipping to the very end. Last chance for comments, and I am 9 minutes over.
Mandeep has a question about, if you are allowed a maximum of two coaches and one is assigned, can another one be assigned later? I catch your question, Mandeep?
Yeah, there's no time limit unless the club has already reached distinguished status, because then the club coach has fulfilled their requirements. I should say there's another requirement, isn't there? I think they have to have there's a number of people that it has to be below. Is it used to be like 8 or something like that, but whatever it is.
More or less than half.
Sorry?
I think it's 9. 9.
9? Okay, so whatever that number is, if they're over that number, then they no longer can qualify as a coach. But until those two things, yes,
12.
absolutely.
Oh, 12? Okay, somebody said 12.
Yeah, it could be. Look, it's been a while since I've done this, and I probably should. I've got, I'm as I said, I'm leaving for Nova Scotia shortly, so I've had a few other things that I've been doing this past week, but I should have had that information for you. That's poor preparation and planning, poor reconnaissance on the instructor. Any other questions?
So if you're a club coach for 6 months, is there anything else you have to achieve in order to be eligible for your DTM?
Well, first of all, to be a successful club coach, the club must be distinguished. So whatever timeline that is, that might, like the one club the very first one that I did not achieve club coach, I was a club coach. I was assigned to that club for over a year when they finally pulled the plug on it after they finally reached distinguished, but distinguished wasn't the criteria back then, so that it was different. It was totally focused on membership. It had nothing to do with you had to reach 20. So even though we were distinguished, because that allowed you, if you had a growth of 8 and this, and you achieve your educational awards and training and all of those things, if you did that, then you were distinguished. So they reached distinguished, but they never reached 20. So I never achieved it, and the company pulled the plug because they said they wouldn't pay anymore. So it's not a 6-month thing. It's not like mentors, club coach. You're there until they're distinguished or you don't get credit. So I'm not sure how to word that to the question.
No, I think that covered what the question was. It's not just a time limit, it's an achievement level as well.
Exactly.
John, could you quickly tell us about motivating people, motivating members who don't want to be motivated? You have covered it, but I would like, I know that you did this
well,
phenomenally.
first of all, you really need to try and get them on board, get them enthusiastic in that, and ask for their help. If they choose not to do that, and if they have been identified, especially if it's in moments of truth, as one of the issues, call a meeting, vote them out. And this is one of the reasons why I like to be on the executive. You know, because then I can put a motion on the floor. If I'm a member of the club, if I'm not a member of the club, I can't do that. If I'm a member of the club, then I put a motion on the floor and I say, you know, I move that we vote Cher Cunningham out of the club. And make sure you've got a seconder lined up. Yeah, of course, sorry, Cher, but I know you love me anyway. So yeah, so I would do that. If no amount of convincing will work on the individual, you may need to remove them. And that's why if we voted them in, we can vote them out. But ultimately, they usually leave. One of the clubs that Janice Weir, when she was district governor, I actually believe it was the year before that. Anyway, she called me and asked me to come and help because she was a club coach at this one club, and there was an individual, and she was actually intimidated by the individual. So invite Captain Rich, you know, that'll sort that out. So we had a conversation, and I basically told the person that you're being a bully. You either stop it or we're voting you out. And he said, you can't do that. So next meeting, I joined the club that meeting. As soon as my membership was approved, I called for a vote and the individual was voted out. But you know, that should be the last possible thing that you do. Ultimately, you want to get them on board. So focus on what you can control. What you can control is how you react to them, how you act and react. Build them up, you know, find out what it is. Ask them the question, like, why are you doing this? You know, do it in a way that makes them non-defensive, because if they're defensive, then they're gonna first of all, they're gonna pass blame. And that's not what you want to do. I'm really eating into Leslie's time here. So last question or two, and I gotta run.
One of the things that resonated with me is the story you told about Elizabeth Hershaw and the lady that was in two minds about joining the club. Who was the lady? What's her name?
Isabel Hershaw. Oh, the one. Oh, her last name. Oh, the one that was district governor. Her last name was Wolf. I'd have to go back because it was my first year in Toastmasters. I would have to go back and look at it. Whether it was Leslie Wolf or something like that. I actually only met her one other time, and I told her how profound that was to me, because when I went to Toastmasters, I didn't go to Toastmasters because I believed I needed Toastmasters. I went to Toastmasters because my business partner was too shy to go to the meeting by herself. And at the end of the meeting, she said, we should join. And I said, do you have a rat in your pocket? Because you said we, and there's only two of us standing here. And she said, no, it's, you know, it's education. The company will pay. And I said, it's our company. It's still us paying. And finally, I agreed to stay for 1 year. After I saw how much it impacted her and her ability to speak in public, she took on the role of the chair of the Vaughan Business Achievement Awards dinner and spoke in front of over 300 people. And when I saw that, I had one of those lump in the throat moments that I'm getting right now just talking about it. I was like, that's Toastmasters. So I stayed. And the very first female president and very first female Toastmaster said, if you stay in Toastmasters long enough to get everything you can out of Toastmasters, you will never get out of Toastmasters. And on that note, it has been my honor and my absolute pleasure to be here with you and share this morning. If you do have questions or comments, feel free to forward them. I don't know if they've shared my emails, but they're welcome to do that. I do have other resources that I can provide for you, and I've passed most of those on to Michelle. I will reach out to people like Leslie, yourself, and Iona, and having a brain cramp here, Chris Nelson, and provide the once living document that died, and hopefully it will help you in your terms. If you do have questions, because I know things have changed, I have not stayed as relevant as maybe I could have, but when you live in the middle of nowhere, it's harder to do that. So I will bid you adieu, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, John, for your presentation today, and for all that you give to Toastmasters. We appreciate you more than words can say. And I think the club growth team is going to have you on speed dial to Toastmaster the meeting. That's the most important thing we look for. So thank you for offering. Enjoy your weekend, and thank you for spending the morning with us.
Thank you.